chapter 2. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea. For thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah. For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, and said, Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed. And lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, In Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they are not. But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeareth in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. And he arose, and took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus did reign in Judea in the room of his father Herod, he was afraid to go thither. Notwithstanding, being warned of God in a dream, he turned aside into the parts of Galilee. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, He shall be called a Nazarene.
Okay, let's go back here to Matthew chapter 2, and let's take a closer look at the scripture here. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the Great, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? And I suggest that this is a mistranslation. This should be Judean, King of the Judeans. For we have seen the star in the east, and we are come to worship him. So let's go and look at Strong's. Here we are with Strong's on, and let's go down here to the word Jews. Let's click on G2453. Strong's G2453.
Strong's G2453. Eudias. Eudias.
And as we scroll down here, I'm going to show you why everybody gets confused as to who the Jews are. This right here is a mistake, and I'm going to try to explain this to you. And if you get this, you're one of the very few people who will get it, This is a mistake, and it's 193 times in the King James. It's a mistake. And it's used in the Bible, Jewish, belonging to the Jewish nation, Jewish as respects to birth, origin, and religion. But let's go to this word here, because the word Eodeos is from G2448. So let's go have a look at that word, and then we'll come back here in a moment.
Strong's G 2448, Euda. Euda.
The King James translates Strong G2448 in the following manner: Judah, 3 times. And Judah is, of course, the 4th son of the patriarch Jacob. And it's also can be used the tribe that were from the offspring of Judah. And the region occupied by the tribe of Judah. And then it's also a city of the tribe of Judah, conjectured to be Hebron, which was a city assigned to the priests and located in the hill country and the native place of John the Baptist according to Jewish tradition. And again, this is error. But let's look down in here. Yehuda, and it's Judah or Jehuda, a part or place in Palestine. And it's this part here, I'm going to say it again, this is not part of the meaning, it's not part of the definition, it's just how it's used in the King James. So we know that G2443 comes from that word we just looked at that refers to Judah or the tribe of Judah. And down here it also says Judean. And that is belonging to Jehuda. I suggest that the proper translation of that word, that Greek word, G2443, Iudeos, should be Judean. And most of the time, if not all of the time, if you just cross out the word Jew, which does not belong in the scripture, you're going to be correct if you substitute this word Judean. And this is how the Jews have everybody confused. The Jews want you to think that the word Jew is a nickname for Judah or someone from the tribe of Judah, and that is not the case. But I don't want to spend too much more time on this. That's not the point of this Bible study. Back here at Matthew chapter 2, it says, there came wise men from the east. And who exactly were these wise men? And that's what we're going to look into here now. And they're looking for the king of the Judeans. Not the king of the Jews, but the king of the Judeans. The king of the tribe that is residing in Judah at the time. At the time of the birth of Christ. And when Herod, the king, heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Now, this is important. Why, if it was only 3 men, which is the common belief, that 3 men came from the west, that 3 magi came from the east. Why would all Jerusalem be troubled along with Herod? And I'm going to tell you why I believe is the case here as we go along. And I'll just give you a little preview. I'm going to give you a little heads up here, and that is that it wasn't just 3 men. It was a contingency of very wealthy men from the east who had traveled to Judea, because they were following a astrological sign in the sky. See here? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. So who were these wise men that and it wasn't just 3. I'm gonna suggest it was several hundred men at the minimum, and that's why all Jerusalem was troubled with Herod. We're troubled along with Herod. But before we go on to those wise men, let's take a look at Herod here. The Herod mentioned here, this is being taken from the Schofield Reference Bible, and I want to read some more from his footnotes. I want to read to you from his footnotes. And I'm not going to go into great depth here, otherwise this would be a very long video, but you can pause the video on your own later and come back here. We're talking about Herod the Great. There's 3 Herods, and so it's confusing sometimes if you don't know which Herod is which. But his family, Schofield says his family was nominally Jewish, and he's, again, confusing people, but I won't go into that. But actually, because here's the point, but he was actually Idumean, Edomite. And he gives a note here, Genesis 36:1. So actually, Herod the Great was an Edomite. And I'm going to suggest to you that he was an Edomite Jew. This is where the Jews come from, and the Jews will admit that if you look for the information in their own reference books. The Jews are not from Judah. The Jews are from Edom, Esau, or Esau, Edom. Let's go have a look at Genesis 36:1 to reinforce that point, and Schofield brings it up himself. Now, we had in that footnote back in Matthew 2 of Schofield's Bible, and he's a pro-Jew. He's a Judeo-Christian if there ever was one, and he's telling you that Herod is an Edomite, and here we have, and he refers to Genesis 36:1, and here it is. Now, these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took wives, and it goes on from there. So here we are back in Matthew 2. We have the contingency of wise men, which I'm going to suggest was several hundred men on horses and camels, or however they traveled, maybe some chariots. And they were very wealthy men, and they were looking for the king of the Judeans. Just cross out that word Jew and put Judeans. And I'm going to show you why they were looking for him in a moment. And when Herod the king, who's an Edomite Jew, when he heard that these men, this contingency of men from the east, were coming to look for the king of Judea, he was troubled because it was a threat to his rule and his power. And he gathered all the chief priests and scribes and the people together and demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea. And thus is written. And you can come back here and read all this because that's not the point here I want to make. I want to talk about who were these wise men from the east. They were the Magi, the priest, as we're going to see here in a moment. And before we go there, I want to come back here. I know this is maybe confusing, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can. Herod's slaughter of the infants in Bethlehem, verse 16, was in keeping with his cruel character. Now that's very revealing for Schofield, who is a Judeo-Christian, to admit that Herod had a cruel character. Well, Herod was an Edomite Jew, and that's what Edomite Jews do. They murder. They have a character that's cruel. And we see that all the way down to our own day. All these wars that are being fought on behalf of the Jew is because of their character. But again, I don't want to go too far into that because it's off the point. But you got to understand that Herod was an Edomite Jew, and he wasn't a Judean. He wasn't of the tribe of Judah. He was a Jew, an Edomite Esau Jew. And there are some of those of you that are going to watch this, and you're not going to believe me. But here we are. I have the Jewish Almanac here, and it was written by two Jews, edited and compiled by two Jews, and this is a Jewish Almanac. So let's have a look inside. Here we are, page 3, under the chapter 3, Identity Crisis, a brief history of the terms for, quote, Jew. And here we go. This is written by Jews now. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew. I'm going to repeat that. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew, or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. The first Hebrews may not have been Jews at all. And I'm going to stop there. If you want to read this whole book page, you can come back later. My apologies for this map. It's a little blurry because it's a small map and I had to blow it up to make it be able to see it. But here we have the northern kingdom of Israel, and here we have the southern kingdom of Judah. Right here we have Jerusalem. And then down here we have the kingdom of Edom. And this is where Herod and what we know today as the Jews come from. Esau is Edom. Remember back that verse we saw in Genesis chapter 36. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. And there's a number of times in the book of Genesis where it says Esau, who is Edom. And one more time, back in Schofield, I want to make sure we get this clear. Schofield himself is calling Herod's family, were actually Edomians. And he says they're Edomites from Genesis 36:1. Now let's look at a map where we find Idumea. Here we are back at a map. Here's Judea. Right here. Jerusalem is going to be here to the north here. Oh, here it is. Right here. Here's Jerusalem. And here's Idumea. This is where the Jews come from. Idumea. They come from Esau, Edom. They do not come from the tribe of Judah. Now, I told you all that to set the scene, the context. And this is the mistake that most people who look at the Bible, they don't have the context. They don't have the history. They don't have the background. So now I'm going to get into explaining who were these wise men from the East. And this is a book by Stephen Collins. I read these books when I was in South Korea. He sent me all 4 of his books, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I hope to share a little bit from this book with you to show you who the wise men were who were looking for the king of Judea. So this is on page 48 of that book of the front cover I just show you, and let's go in and have a closer look. He says here, the Magi, subject of Christmas stories as the givers of gold, frankincense, and myrrh to Jesus, were a very influential part of the Parthian society, and some of them served as members of Parthia's Senate. Rawlinson states that the Magi were a powerful body consisting of an organized hierarchy which had come down from ancient times and was feared and venerated by all classes of people. Their numbers at the close of the empire, counting males only, are reckoned at 80,000. They were the sole inhabitants of many large towns or villages which they were permitted to govern as they pleased. The Magi paralleled the Levites of ancient Israel. The tribe of Levi had been the priestly tribe of the Israelites, and the law of Moses required that the Levites dwell in their own independent cities. Joshua 21 records that the priestly Levites were given 48 independent states to inhabit in the territory of ancient Palestine. The Parthians emulated the Israelite tradition of having independent cities for its priestly class. That the Parthian Magi were a hierarchy of priests that had descended from ancient times indicate that the Magi we're on the next page, page 49, an hereditary body, an actual tribe of priests. Since the Israelite nature of the Parthians has already been shown, I didn't go back that far for you, but he's saying that the Israelites and the Parthians are the same people. The Parthian Magi were likely a body of Levites, Israel's hereditary tribe of priests. A priest of the Parthian Magi is depicted on a bas relief wearing a conical hat reminiscent of the mitre worn by the Israelite priests and the tall caps of Scythian leaders. The Scythians were from the tribe of Isaac. I mean, not the tribe of Isaac, but they're from Isaac, and that's a whole nother subject. But we have the Parthians and the Scythians who were of the Israelites. They were members of the Israelite tribe that had migrated out of the Assyrian after the Assyrian and the Babylonian captivity. Here we are in that same book, but we're back at page 9. This is what the author Collins refers to earlier. And I'm going to read this here. So let's read this, and then we'll look at the map. Rawlinson cites an account of the ancient historian Heliodorus that the Parthians, quote, revolted from the Medes and placed themselves under Scythian protection. Now remember I said that the Parthians and the Scythians were related because they were all from the 12 tribes of Israel. This confirms that from the time of their first efforts to gain independence, the Parthians looked to the Scythians as their natural protectors and liberators. And then it goes on and talks about encyclopedia, but that's off the point here. Let's have a look at this map. This is the Parthian Empire. Up here, Eastern Scythians. Here's the Sake. And here's the Caucasus Mountains. This is where the Caucasian race got their name. This is the Black Sea. This is the Caspian Sea. This is where Assyria was. This is where the Babylonian empire was. And when the Israelites migrated away after the 2 captivities, they went through these mountains here into Europe, into Western Europe, and that's how the Caucasian race got their name right here. There's even a pass here called the Pass of Israel. It's a very narrow pass that there's only 4 or 5 men can walk through at one time. And here's a word, Iberia, which means Hebrew. And there's so much history here, and we can't go into that right now. Here we have, back on page 24, Parthia, the forgotten ancient superpower. Parthia's Israelite cities. One prominent Parthian city was named Asak, where Arsaces was crowned king. The name Asak clearly represents the name Isaac. The name of Isaac has been attached to the Takai Scythians long before Parthia ever became independent. Strabo records that Alexander the Great noted a region called Asakanus, which was traversed in Alexander's expeditions to India. The presence of the name of Isaac in both Parthian and Scythian contexts confirms the many secular accounts that they were related kinsmen. As further evidence of the Israelite origins of the Parthians, some Parthian cities were given Israelite names. An early capital of the Parthians was named Dera, which is the exact name of one of the patriarchs of the tribe of Judah. And he quotes 1 Chronicles 2, verses 3 through 6. And he goes on there, and he quotes the famous historian George Rawlinson. And I'll put the whole page here, and you can come back and look at it at your leisure. It's going to be a long video, so I might as well go ahead and include this. This is Chuck Missler. He's on the Blue Letter Bible, and a lot of people read him, but he's confused too. He doesn't get it. He's almost got it, but let's look at what Chuck Missler has to say. Who are the Edomites? There are more Bible passages pronouncing judgment on the Edomites than on any other nation. But who are they? What relevance do they have for us today? As diligent students of the Word of God, it is essential for us to understand who they are and what theological implication they may have on our present geopolitical horizon. And then I'm going to skip down here. To the covenant birthright was a point of contention between Sarah versus Hagar, Isaac versus Ishmael, and which then became the root of, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, everlasting hatred. Beginning in the womb were Esau and Jacob. See, Esau is the Jews and Jacob are the Israelites. And Esau, spiteful intermarriage with the Ishmaelites. That's how Esau despised his birthright, and he married outside of the Israelites, and that he's a famous race mixer. Now let's scroll down here. Down here, as the Babylonians took Judah, now that's the Israelites, see? As the Babylonians took Judah into captivity, and angry soldiers wrecked the walls, slew the people, slew the Israelites, and they didn't slay the Jews. They were wrecking Judea and the city, and they were slaying the Israelites who didn't leave, and they burned the city. We could have observed their neighboring citizens, the Edomite Jews, encouraged the Babylonians to ruin the city. Raise it, they were calling. Dash their little children against the stone and wipe out the Judeans. This is where Missler is incorrect. The Edomite are the Jews, and the Judeans are the Israelites. And this is where people come here and they read this and they're confused as hell because Chuck Missler doesn't know what he is talking about. Now Hebron, let's look at a map real quick. Now here's Hebron right here, right south of Jerusalem in Idumea, Edom. This is where the Jews come from, Idumean. Now back here with Chuck Missler, Hebron remained under Edomite Jewish control until Judas Maccabeus retook the city under Judean control. This is where Chuck Missler's wrong. He's confused. This is Judeans took control in 164 BC. 38 years later, in 126 BC, the Edomites, they here being the Edomites, had to be reconquered by the Judean army, not the Jewish army, by the Israelite army under Prince and High Priest John Hyrcanus. A pivotal event then took place in which Idumeans were forced to be proselytized into Judaism, and that's an error. It's into the laws of Moses, or flee or die. They had three options. Become a Judean who believes in the law of Moses, flee, or die. This resulted in many Idumean Edomite Jews pretending to become Judeans. You see how confused Chuck is? Chuck Missler? Yet really they were not. Now, more information in support of what I'm saying here is found in the Jewish Virtual Library and Idumea, Edom. Right here it says, Idumea or Edom in Hebrew was the region south of Judea, originally inhabited by the reputed descendants of Jacob's brother Esau. Edom was periodically subjected to Judea under David and Solomon, 10th century before Common Era, and the Maccabees, 2nd century, which is what we just looked at in John Hyrcanus, and is the homeland of the house of Herod. Herod was an Edomite Jew. There were no natural boundaries between Idumea and Judea, so the borders were always in flux. The distinction between Edomites and they're trying to confuse you now here. They want you to think that Judea here is the Jews. It's not. The distinction between the Edomites and the Judeans was blurred by Johann Hyrcanus' forced conversion of Idumea to Judaism, when actually it was to the laws of Moses. During the 1st century, the Common Era, pressured by the Arab, we don't need to read that, but this is support of what I've been saying all along, that the Jews are the Edomites, and people are confused, thinking that the Jews are the Judeans or the tribe of Judah, and they are not. The Jews are the Esau Edomites from Idumea. Well, this isn't the best map, but it gives you a pretty good idea where the Parthian Empire was, and the Scythian Empire, and the Roman Empire is over here. Here's the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah right here. So from the east, the priestly tribe, the Levites, were looking for the king of Judeans, the Israelites, and they were given a sign in the sky through the heavens, and they followed this here to the east, and they came to this part of the world to worship their king. And this part down here is where the Edomite Esau lived, and they moved up here into this area when the Babylonian captivity, when the Judeans were taken into the Babylonian captivity. And there's a lot more history here. But one more thing. This is the Black Sea, I believe. This is the Caspian Sea. This is the Caucasus Mountain. And the Israelites migrated away from this area into Western Europe, and they became the Western Europeans, and they eventually migrated to North America, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Canada, etc. We, Caucasians, are the Israelites of the Old and the New Testament. And the Magi, the kingly priest, took a contingency of they were a very wealthy empire, and they went looking for their king. It sends goosebumps up my arms when I think about that Jesus Christ is the king of the Israelites, and we, the Caucasian race, are the Israelites, not the Jews. The Jews are the imposters of Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, and chapter 3, verse 9. And they have everybody confused because nobody wants to do the work to find out the real history. I hope this has been helpful. Embrace the love of the truth, and please share, because YouTube is not going to promote these kinds of this kind of information. We're going to have to promote this. If you learn something from this, please share with others. I'm not trying to build a large a subscriber base and make money off of YouTube videos. I want to get the truth out there. We've been lied to and fooled and duped, and for so long, it's time for our people to wake up. Embrace the love of the truth, and may the grace of God be with us all, because we certainly need it. See ya.